Good Saturday morning. It is November 21st. And today is going to be an extremely busy day for us. Got a lot of projects to do. One of them is to move that tree that's on the steps behind me over my shoulder. Here, I'll do it this way. That is Brutus. He is in several pieces, and then one little tree along with him. That has to go into the office and get set up. And then this disaster needs to get finished. Get all this stuff stowed away or thrown away, depending on what we're doing with it. Quail seem pretty happy in their little enclosure. They're nice and dry. But I do need to move it back. I need to take down this inner enclosure, but first I need to set up a new inner enclosure that encloses all the way around and get some bird netting up on top. All of these reindeer need to go out front and get set up. That's not a high priority today, but if we can get to it, it would be nice. The chickens, some of them, as you can see the back of Tish's head, are still molting, which means they are not laying eggs. And Chief there is just old. She's just not laying eggs because she's old. But Nia, she's back to laying. Yeah, you can see by her red comb and wattles. And I reached past her the other day and she squatted. That's a sure sign they're either laying or they're close to it. Got to get this little coop inside the quail enclosure for them to use. This is what I'm going to put the quail in when I'm tearing down the old and getting them moved to the new so that I have them out of the way. But I'll wait until the sun is high for that. We, for the most part, gotten the run cleaned up. Still need to stow all these tools over here because I'm taking down the lower set of welded wire to make the quail enclosure. And then we'll move all these tools over into this space here. I'm going to try to hang the gardening tools, but not today. Is there a problem? Penny! She's laying too. One of the few. And she's probably looking for a place to lay right now. Hopefully she's not hiding her eggs. I've got most of the garden taken down. The fencing. My sage all covered so that it doesn't get frozen before Thanksgiving. Hello, Wednesday. You're finally not molting, or at least finishing up. You have a little bit of feathering still. Yeah. Hello. Oh, I know. She just needs me to talk to her. And we've got bags of leaves donated by some neighbors that I very much appreciate and would take more if I could get them. But I'm going to have Holly take those and run them over with the lawnmower and then spread them in here because it needs it. As you can see, the kale and the collard greens are still kind of alive. That's really shocking to me, but that's good. I've got stuff to do today. So, probably bring y'all along for some of it, not all of it, because, you know, that's kind of boring. Because the really, really big job today is we are taking all of the shavings that have been through the summer out of the coop. I'm going to move them into that run. And then we're going to put all new, well, that was kind of close, all new shavings in here. First, got to get it all cleaned up. Nobody has scraped the droppings boards today, but that's all right because we're going to scrape them and pull them out and scrub them all down. I'm going to try and get some plywood or pressed wood or something up on here to conceal, not necessarily to conceal, but to enclose all this insulation here. These are just feed bags stuffed with plastic shopping bags. Great way to recycle them. Need to get plastic on the windows so that it prevents a draft from coming in through the window. Still have plenty of ventilation up through the top, but you don't want them in a draft when they're roosting. I need to close that in too, because that's kind of close to where they like to roost up there. And I have some Christmas lights up here that are on a timer that adds a little extra light. I do give my chickens a month off in the fall from laying. But what are you looking for, miss? Huh, Hyacinth? Are you getting ready to lay? I would be happy if you would. But they all took a month off and they all stopped laying. Many of them were molting. Hello, Nia. I'll leave you be, I promise. Many of them were molting through that month, which is good. We want them to kind of get that over with. Okay, I'm stepping on it. There we go. But I give them that break. It's important for them. I would give them a longer break, but I got chickens for eggs. I did not get them as pets. They, for the large part, are sort of pets, but they still are my livestock. They serve the purpose of providing eggs for our family. So I don't give them too long of a break. I think a month is good. So much to do, so little time, but we'll get it done. So we'll pick this up in a little bit. Alright, first things first. First, have to catch the quail. Get them in a nice sunny warm spot in the grass, and then start taking down their enclosure. This should be fun. So this is the quail enclosure. Hey, buddy. They're enjoying their dust bath. I've got a heated dog bowl with a rock in it. Now the reason I put a rock in there is if a quail were to slip and fall into it, they would be able to quickly get out without getting too wet and without, drowning, I guess. But, they're pretty quiet, pretty happy in here. They have a couple of hutches with straw in them that they can get up into, and they do. And then they've got the igloo. They all seem to like the igloo. It's a little dog igloo. Little places where they can hide. And I have logs in here for them to climb on. And that is a burning bush. And it'll get bright red come spring. I have it near the opening so that it can get sunlight in the daytime. And it can get watered easily. But this is our somewhat temporary, almost permanent enclosure. I do have to put the gate on the front. I have a big gate that I'm going to mount to the front so it's easier to get in and out. I'm planning to open up the back with a gate or a door and make that a solid enclosure for my potting shed. So I will have to walk through the quail enclosure to get in and out, but that's it for now. So today's big project is to clean out the coop. Now I do the deep litter method, and so I'm going to be completely changing over all the litter that's in there now to fresh clean litter for the winter. I usually do this in October. I waited till November because it's just been way too busy and we were gone for most of October, so I'll be doing it today. And I was going to have Holly help me, but she's visiting her brother and sister-in-law for the day, and I feel like she needed a day off. She worked really hard yesterday helping with the quail enclosure, so I can take care of this by myself. I have a huge mess, as you can see, of stuff that has come out of either the run or has just been waiting for a place to be, like the gardening supplies. I do plan to put this little coop in with the quail. They liked it. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in there towards the back for them to get up into. I might put it in one of the corners. I don't know. I'll think about that. But they liked it, so it's going to go in there with them, and that'll give them one more place to get to be up off the ground and to be sheltered. And I will cover up this screening in the front so that it's a solid enclosure. Changing out all of the bedding in the baskets. The girls are starting to lay again. And we've mostly got the coop cleared out. I need to finish pulling down some of the wire, the hardware wire that I plan to use in the quail enclosure. But, yeah, you know, it is what it is for now. I gotta refill their water, I can see. They also have a heated dog bowl right there. And their door is on a timer. The dog bowl is just on electricity so that it stays warm all day and all night. As you can see, there's a lot of work to do. I've got the droppings boards scraped off and ready to clean, but I'm first gonna evacuate all of this bedding out into the run. And then the chickens will dig through it and break it down, and eventually it'll end up in the compost. I'm gonna cover the windows with plastic to make them nice and insulated, but we do have ventilation up through the roof, up through the eaves, so it's not a completely airtight coop. I've also got these drapes that I'm going to pull to cover the netting to kind of hold their body heat in, but it's not solid, so it doesn't create a problem with condensation. So that's today's project, and I'll catch you up as I go. Well, halfway there. I'm a little more than halfway there. A couple more trips with the buckets. Should be done. Nearly all of the wood shavings out. You can see it's not perfectly clean, but it's a good amount. So now I'm going to start working on these droppings boards because they need a good scraping off. So I've got these wire brushes. I'll get these good and scraped off, and then I'm going to brush them with some lime, a lime water mixture that soaks in. That will help to get rid of any mites, prevent any further mites, just in general help control that problem. What's the matter? It's not treat time. All I've got here is some garden lime and water, and I'm just going to brush it on. First I'm going to mix it all up. I would probably put a couple of cups in that amount of water. I don't know, it's about a half gallon. But I just kind of eyeball it. Once it looks like paint, that should be good. I just mix it up and then just brush it on. And I'm doing this early enough in the day that by the time they get in here, this will be dry. Now ultimately, I'm kind of hoping this year, but I don't really expect it. I'm planning to cover all of that with plywood and then paint it with a whitewash and then just continue to do that. I'm not quite done with all the walls, getting them all insulated. I've got a bunch of feed bags that are waiting for me to use them. Now these droppings boards, well, at least the ones on the sides, are not really, they're treated. And so really nothing's going to get in them. But I give them a little brush anyway, just in case there's holes or gaps or anything. This when I clean the coop. I don't do it other than that. I typically through the year I sprinkle diatomaceous earth on all of the roosting bars. You know, about once a week I'll sprinkle some diatomaceous earth all over the roosting bars. If I start to notice any kind of a concern about mites, I will wait until they're out of here and then dust everything down with 7 dust, and then I'll treat them. And I make sure that all of the dust is good and worked in before I let the chickens back in. But that's pretty much the job for today. I've got to put the layer, I put about 4 to 6 inches of fresh pine shavings. I use the fine. I just feel like it's softer on their feet. My chickens don't eat it. I know I've heard people complain that their chickens eat it. My chickens don't eat it. But you know, you got to go with what works for you. The flake is fine. I just like the softness of the fine. I have to replace all of the bedding in the nesting boxes and baskets. But I'll show you how I do that. First, let's get the pine shavings in here. All right. I get my pine shavings from various places. I'm not picky or particular. These bags just happen to be from Tractor Supply because it's very close to my house. I should be able to cover this area with 2 bags. I got 3 just in case. And then as the shavings kind of get compacted, as the chickens hop on them and walk on and dig through them, they may compact down. I can always add another bag of shavings. See how much that covers. My rake. A bag of pine shavings will run you anywhere from $3 to $6, depending on the time of the year, depending on the kind that you get and where you get it. I recommend you shop around and see what different places want for their shavings. But like I said, for the deep litter method, you want a good 4 to 6 inches deep. These girls were heavy livestock, they would quickly break this all up for me, but they're not. So it would take them quite a while to break this all down. So I'm gonna get it as loose up as I can. Loosened up. Looks like I am going to need that third bag. I think I got it. Now, this stuff must have gotten wet at some point because it is really compacted. A lot of times you'll open up a bag of shavings and it just goes scattering everywhere. This not so much. And I don't add heat. I don't add heat to my coop, but I do add light in the winter. If it's going to be super bitter cold, like below 0, the light actually helps to add some heat. But I might go so far as to let a heater run not unattended for an hour or two before bedtime. So it create some heat, but they don't really even need it for that. That's more for me than for them, because I know that then they'll go into their coop. They'll go into the coop and they'll be greeted with a nice warm place for the night, and then maybe they can use that heat to create some of their own, kind of trap it, because that's what chickens do, is they trap the heat in between their feathers, and that's how they can handle really cold temperatures without any additional heat. And that's the equivalent of you wearing a down jacket. And the reason I add the light is just because I want eggs. I want fresh eggs right through the winter. I especially want my own fresh eggs when I'm baking. I did not get chickens just to have adorable little pets that take this much work to keep them. Even if this is only a couple times a year, it's still a lot of work. And I understood that for the most part when I got them. I didn't understand everything. We made mistakes. We learned as we went. But I did get them because I wanted eggs. That I knew what was in them. I knew what they were being fed. I knew what kind of treatment they've had all their life. So now that we're approaching the baking season, I want my own eggs. Battery's dying, hang on. This is one of our nesting baskets, one of the more popular ones with the girls. They also like these buckets, but they're in need of fresh bedding, so we'll take care of that. Okay, I've got all of my various buckets and baskets ready to go. Just need to fill them. So you can see that. I don't put a ton of stuff in their baskets because they don't seem to like a ton of stuff. I usually just use chopped straw. The straw is compacted too, but it is dry, so that's good. Give me a little bit more. But basically, just looks like that. And then then I use nesting box herbs because I love the way they smell and because they have some other benefits. And it looks like I'm out. So I'll have to run to Tractor Supply and get some more. I might have to go up to Cal Ranch if Tractor Supply doesn't have any. But the nesting box herbs, yeah, they smell heavenly. But they also help with the chicken's health, especially if they pick at it at all, which they do. It also controls pests and mites, things like that. It's just a really healthy environment for them to lay their eggs in. Oh, and the lights just came on. A little early, I think. I better check the time. It might not be. I don't want it to come on when it is dark because they're in here and it might startle them. I want it to appear to be the natural change of light. When it goes off, they're usually pretty close to asleep by then. And it's a lot less abrupt for the light to go off than for the light to come on. At least that's my thinking. And the two baskets, kind of the same deal. Most of my chickens like the buckets, but they do go back and forth. Just when I think I know what they like, they change their mind. So I like to offer them a few options. And of course, they all seem to fight over one or two, even if they are exactly the same. They will still fight over them. So, if your chickens are fighting over nesting boxes, that's very normal. Hi, Chief. How are you? So, this is my nice clean coop. It's all clean, well, for the most part. You know, it's a chicken coop. I still have a couple projects. Need to insulate down here the way I did up there. Hi, Chief. I need to replace that. I put up just a piece of a pine shavings bag as a kind of a windbreak. It doesn't bother them. They'll go through it. They're a little freaked out at first. But I need to replace it because it's kind of chewed up. Time to close the window. I still need to get plastic on these windows. But that's a project maybe for tomorrow. So, there it is. Bedding redone, coop cleaned up for another 6 months. I do this every October and every April, give or take, depending on what's going on in my life. But it seems to keep them very healthy and they like it, and it stays warm in the winter and pretty cool in the summer. I do add a fan in the summer to circulate the air, but for the most part it stays a pretty good temperature for them the whole year round. Okay, I've got bubble wrap up on the actual glass of the window. I'm going to be covering that with plastic out to the edges to stop any draft, and then I'm going to close these curtains. I'm going to do it on both sides. There, that's one side done. The curtains kind of help hold in some of the warmth and just make it feel a little cozier. I don't want to close them off completely because I don't want them to not have any light in here during the day. But that's sealed up nice and tight. And here they come, checking out their digs for the night. Hi, Subaki. Hi. Yeah, what do you think? Toasty and warm? It's going to be a really cold night tonight. Hi, Chiefy. Chief, Chief. Chief, Chief. Oh, you're going way up there. I can barely see you. You're blending in. Well, I'll leave you guys alone. Yeah, time for bed, huh? Hi, Tish. I leave that bucket there so that they have something to hop on, because my ramp is not quite done yet. I'm going to install a ramp on that droppings board with a hinge so that when I need to clean in here or gather eggs, I can just lift up the ramp and attach it to a hanging hook that'll be suspended from the rafters. But in the meantime, they have this stump and this bucket to hop on. Come on in, Lorelei. Come on. Yeah, I'll leave you guys be. Sleep tight. The nightly traffic jam has begun. Hey, Blue. You know, if you peck her, she will move. Go ahead, Wednesday. Go on in. Go on. There you go. Blue's almost done molting. It's getting close. And as you can see, I have the dropping, or not the droppings, the bedding from the coop, the old bedding, spread out in the run. It gives them a nice, dry, comfy place to be when it snows or rains, or when the ground is covered in frost. And they'll peck through it and dig through it. It has all the feathers they lost in the coop. There was tons. And my garden tools are out of the weather for the winter until I can get some pegboard mounted to hang them on. But in the meantime, they're at least out of the weather. Here's their water bowl. I need to refill it. Dump out the old, put in some new. I've got some wind breaks for when the wind whips around that corner, which sometimes it does, until I can get a tarp up here, which I'm going to do probably tomorrow. Lady Tsunade, it's time for bed. It's starting to stick to the ground.